caterpillar herders found a caterpillar that had been missing for a week, and the music talent fairies, who had just lost a fairy to disbelief, practiced an extra hour every day. Approaching the island, the laugh slipped under a mermaid's rainbow. It breezed by the pirate ship in Pirate Cove, too silly to be scared. When it touched shore, it sped up and hurtled along the beach, not even pausing to admire the flock of giant yellow-shelled tortoises. The laugh shrank and became more concentrated. After it passed the 54th conch shell, it canted inland. It hadn't gone far, however, before the air hardened against it. The laugh was forced to slow down to a crawl. The trouble was that Neverland was having doubts. This laugh was a little different, and the island wasn't sure whether to let it in. Below lay Fairy Haven. Fairies were flying in and out of their rooms in the home tree, a towering maple that is the heart of Fairy Haven. Fairies were washing windows, taking in laundry, watering windowsill flower pots, making everything shipshape in honor of the evening's celebration of the Moult. The laugh sensed it belonged down there. It tried to descend, but it couldn't. In the lower stories of the home tree, fairies were busy in their workshops. 2 sewing talent fairies were rushing to finish an iris petal gown. Bess, the island's foremost artist, was putting the finishing touches on a portrait of Mother Dove. If Bess or any of the others had known the laugh was overhead, she'd have flown out her window and helped it along. She'd have called more fairies to help too, and they'd have come, every single one, even nasty Vidya, even dignified Queen Clarion. On the tree's lowest story, fairies bustled about the kitchen, unaware of the laugh. 2 cooking talent fairies hefted a huge roast of mock turtle into the oven. 3 sparrow men, male fairies, argued over the best way to slice the night's potato, and a baking talent fairy consulted with a coiffure talent fairy over the braiding of the bread. Above, the laugh pushed on, fighting for every inch. It passed above the oak tree that was the home tree's nearest neighbour. The laugh had no idea that a crew of scullery talent fairies was working under the tree. Protected by nutshell helmets, they were collecting acorns for tonight's soup. In the barnyard beyond the oak tree, 4 dairy talent fairies milked 4 dairy mice. The fairies failed to see the laugh's faint shadow as it crossed over each mouse's back. In the orchard on the other side of Havendish Stream, a squad of fruit talent fairies picked 2 dozen cherries for 2 dozen cherry pies. If only they'd looked up. The laugh reached the edge of Fairy Haven, where Mother Dove sat, as always, on her egg in the lower branches of a hawthorn tree. The nest was next to the fairy circle, where tonight's celebration would be held. Did the laugh feel the pull of Mother Dove's goodness? I don't know, but it bunched itself for a final effort. If Mother Dove hadn't been distracted, she'd have felt the laugh. But she was listening as a fairy recited her lines for a skit tonight, and she was watching as another fairy practiced her flying polka. Mother Dove wanted to nod encouragingly to them, but she had to keep her head still so Beck could tie a ribbon around her neck. Overhead, the laugh pushed with all its might. At the same moment, Neverland decided to let it in. It spun once, then zoomed faster and faster above Mother Dove, back over the orchard, past the mice and the oak tree, on a downward course. It achieved final sneeze force and exploded right outside the knothole door to the home tree. And there, in the tree's pebbled courtyard, was Prilla, the new fairy, flat on her back, one wing bent, legs in the air, the remnants of the laugh collecting around her to form her arrival garment. Chapter 2. Mother Dove knew the instant Prilla arrived. "The new fairies come," she told Beck excitedly. "Isn't that wonderful?" "It is," Beck said, hoping the newcomer was an animal talent fairy. In the courtyard, a crowd gathered around Prilla. A message talent fairy flew off to tell the Queen. Terence, a fairy dust talent sparrow man, sprinkled a level teacup of fairy dust on Prilla, not a particle more than a cup, nor a particle less, mind you. It was Prilla's first daily allotment. As soon as the dust touched her, a tingly feeling spread over her, and her glow began. Fairies glow lemon yellow, edged with gold. She sat up. Her bent wings sprang back, and her wings started to flutter. Her mind cleared. She was a fairy, a never fairy. She was so lucky. The other fairies waited, feeling too solemn even to smile at the new arrival. Each fairy hoped against hope for a new talent member. They expected her to announce her talent. The first act of every new fairy was to make the announcement. But Prilla flew over the courtyard, her brown hair streaming out behind her. Flying was marvellous. She turned an aerial cartwheel. And she had magical powers, didn't she? She flew to the home tree and shook a little fairy dust off her hand and onto a leaf. She squinted hard at the leaf, and it flickered out of sight. She blinked, and there it was again. The fairies on the ground stared up at her. Not one of them had ever seen an arrival behave as Prilla was behaving. She landed in their midst, between Terence and a caterpillar herder. They drew back. "Greetings," she said. "I'm so glad to be a fairy. Thank you for having me." Several fairies raised their eyebrows. Did this newcomer think they'd picked her? Prilla saw their expressions and faltered. "I'll try to be a good fairy." A fairy said, "Bye." "She's freckled." Terence said, "Pleasantly plump, though." These were the sort of things one said at an arrival, ordinarily after the new fairy had announced her talent. "I swear they look younger every year," the caterpillar herder said. A few fairies nodded. Prilla wouldn't look young to you. She'd look grown up, just about 5 inches tall, same as any other fairy, and perfectly proportioned. Fairies, however, knew that Prilla was a youngster because her nose and the lower halves of her wings hadn't yet reached their full growth. A grown-up Clumsy wouldn't see Prilla at all. He might see the air shimmer, he might smell cinnamon, he might hear leaves rustle, but he'd have no idea he was in the presence of a fairy. Adult Clumsies can't see or hear fairies, although they can feel them. If a fairy pinches a grown-up Clumsy, the Clumsy will slap the spot, thinking he's been bitten by a mosquito. Tinkerbell landed in the courtyard. When she'd seen Prilla flash by her workshop window, she had dropped her leaky ladle and come. She wanted to be on the spot if the new fairy turned out to have a talent for repairing pots and pans. Terence smiled his most charming smile at Tink. He admired her enormously. He liked her bounce when she landed. He liked the arch of her eyebrows, the curl to her ponytail, and her bangs, which were the perfect length, whatever length they were. He even liked her scowl, which was both fierce and pert. Tink ignored the smile. Her heart had been broken once, and she wasn't going to endanger it again. "Welcome to Fairy Haven," she told Prilla. "What's your name, child?" "Prilla." Prilla held out her hand to shake.